Hello, good evening, everyone. I'm Fernando Guimarães from Brazil. astrokabana is our space in YouTube, so I'm glad to go back with the international series of live chat with some friends of mine. Boa noite para o pessoal que está aqui assistindo em português. Eu sou Fernando Guimarães e hoje temos um convidado especial para falar dos ciclos planetários. Our guest is Nick Dagan, a Canadian astrologer. I will invite him to the screen now while I talk about his, he has some international. So he was converted to astrology on January 17th, 1995. Oh, we have the chart. He trained with a variety of astrology teachers in New York City, NCGR program that I belong to, also National Council of Geocosmic Research. And between 97 and 2000, in the summer 1999, he was introduced to Hellenistic astrology at a series of the project. How to say that? Hindsight.
Project Hindsight, yeah.
Project Hindsight. Inspired,
Yes.
He soon began focusing his studies on planetary synodic cycle that I tried with him on my chart. It's really incredible. I like it. Very specialized. It's difficult for me anyways. An avid researcher, he has amassed a solar fire database of events and natal chart totaling over 40,000 entries. That's hard. And he's available also for consultations. At the end, I'll give all the information. So if you allow me now, I'll say the same thing in Portuguese. Oi, pessoal. O Nick Dagan se converteu à astrologia em janeiro de 1995. Ele treinou com vários professores de astrologia no programa de Nova York, NCGR, em 1997, o ano 2000. No verão de 99, ele foi apresentado à astrologia helenística, em uma série de conclaves do projeto Hindsight. Inspirado, ele logo começou a focar os seus estudos nos ciclos sinódicos planetários. Ele vai falar sobre isso hoje. E ele é um ávido pesquisador. Ele conseguiu acumular um banco de dados no Solar Fire de eventos e mapas natais da pesquisa dele, totalizando mais de 40 mil mapas. Ele está disponível para consulta e no final eu dou o endereço dele. Ok, Nick, so well introduced. What are you going to talk to us tonight? Or if you...
Okay, well, sorry, did you want to finish something?
Or anything else that you like to add what I just told about you, or we go for the presentation, or you know?
Yeah, no, I think well, hopefully it'll be self-explanatory as I show some of my work, what I'm focusing on. Basically, what I've done is, very recently, just the other day, we had a Sun-Venus conjunction, which is almost like it's the same feeling for Venus that a new moon is for the moon. When you get a conjunction between these two bodies. The Venus cycle has been a fascination of mine for a very long time. I'm also very interested in Mars cycles, of course. We have just entered into a Mars retrograde cycle, but I was going to focus on Venus for at least most of this talk, if not all of it. Just to explain this sort of method that I've devised to study the Venus cycle, sort of like a Babylonian astrologer would have done if this Babylonian astrologer had a computer 4,000 years ago. So basically, the synodic, I have a little video I wanted to start with, a little slideshow and video to explain how I've explained the Venus cycle itself, explain the system that I've devised to define it, and then from there, I want to show you some examples about how this cycle plays out in history.
Okay, so I'll do some translation for some folks to understand. But before that, when you talk about planetary cycles, the most known one for the people are the solar cycle, that is the solar return, our birthday, right?
Yeah.
And the second one, well known, is the Saturn return, right?
That's right.
But a lot of people don't think about the other ones.
No, and Venus and the cycles of Venus and Mars are very, very powerful. I think they're just as powerful as the other cycles that we observe. And to understand them is to really understand these planets in a more sort of complete sense. And their cycles are very easy to understand, and it tells you something about them that you just don't know unless you understand the cycles.
I have tried the Venus one with you, and it's right on. Mars, I never study. I don't know if I'm afraid of Mars or whatever it is. I find it difficult. So, because it's true, you may agree with me that not many astrology go into that on a daily basis. Is that
that's
right?
True.
Okay.
That's true. Yes. Yeah.
That's why.
When I was studying Greek astrology, I learned that these cycles were used by the Babylonians. The oldest astrology we have, even before the design of the horoscope.
I see.
This was the method. The oldest astrologers, the way they would look at new moons and full moons and eclipses, and the cycles of Venus were this is an old sort of old knowledge that I'm sort of rediscovering for us. And it's almost my approach is to pretend if horoscopic astrology didn't exist, what would we need to know in order to invent it? Because this is really, when the Greeks designed the first, proper horoscope, like the kind of astrology
yes,
we do,
yes,
they were using this older knowledge, the kind of knowledge that I'm rediscovering.
Yeah, it seems like the Arabs, they were into this math, astronomical astrology. The Greek were very much into math. So it's really different, right? We can see, the development of astrology, a lot of a different approach, medieval times and, other,
sure.
right?
But this is, but this is like 2,000 years before the Greeks, even.
Before the Greeks, true.
Well, like it's like 1,000 to 2,000 years before the Greeks. Yeah, before the astrology that we know. So we're talking about very old knowledge. That the oldest astrologers, before they were even doing horoscopes, they were looking at this kind of information, and I can understand why, because it's very powerful in its own right.
Yeah, and also because they were kind of astrologers, they will look at the sky, not just at the ephemeris or computer, right? This is a powerful relationship, looking at the bodies in the sky, right?
Yeah.
And do you know what else? Do you know what else I've learned, Nick? Is that the Mayans, the Mayans, they would do this too, the Venus cycles, right?
Oh yes, yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. That's 100% right. Their astrology definitely made extensive use of the Venus synodic cycles as well. Absolutely.
Yeah, so excited. All right, so I'll ask you 1 minute to explain. Oi, boa noite, pessoal. Desculpa estar aqui falando muito tempo, mas eu deixei o Nick à vontade para falar sobre ele. Eu já coloquei alguma coisinha aqui, então vou falar. Ele vai fazer uma apresentação, mas ele está sobre os ciclos planetários, e a especialidade dele é o ciclo de Vênus, que a gente conhece um pouco aqui por vários colegas nossos, e o ciclo de Marte também. Ele disse que recentemente a gente teve uma conjunção de Vênus com o Sol, e é quase como a gente fala sinódico porque o encontro do Sol com a Lua, ou da Lua mais rápida com o Sol, é a nossa Lua nova, né? Então ele vai falar um pouco sobre isso, é a paixão dele. Eu já coloquei aí a biografia dele, acho que está lá em cima, se vocês conseguirem rolar informação, tá bom? E depois, se vocês... A gente vai dividir os blocos aqui, enquanto tiver interesse a gente continua. É difícil para mim, eu peço desculpa, ficar manejando o estúdio, conversando, lendo a pergunta e traduzindo, mas a gente vai tentar fazer o nosso melhor, tá? Então, se vocês tiverem comentários em inglês, pode colocar, ou se tiver perguntas mesmo em português, eu traduzo para ele. Obrigado. All right, thank you, Nick.
Okay, so we're ready to start then.
Anytime, yes, you can share the screen. Okay. So if you are looking into that, I will.
Okay. Shall I start then?
Yes.
Okay. Imagine a circle. Imagine the circle represents 2,920 days, or 8 years minus 2 days. Divide the circle into 10 equal parts. Split these parts into alternating black and white sections, and you have reproduced the elegantly simple outline of the Venus synodic cycle. The Venus synodic cycle is an 8-year pattern defined relative to the annual solar cycle. Synod is derived from the Greek synodos for meeting place. It refers to a cyclical relationship between two bodies. Astrology is a complex calendar system. It can be used to study human life according to a measurement of time. It is the combined biography of billions of souls. Astrological study of the Venus synodic cycle goes back at least to the Babylonian era, 2nd to 1st millennia BC. This knowledge predates the creation of horoscopic astrology and is likely to have contributed to its design. The Venus synodic cycle is a natural work of near-perfect celestial symmetry. It traces the outline of humanity's most universal symbol, the 5-pointed star. Phases. The practice of astrology involves observing planets in the night sky. Planetary positions are calculated according to a geocentric model. Venus is closer to the Sun than Earth, giving it a shorter orbit. In one full cycle, its path transits both in front of and behind the Sun. Sun-Venus exterior conjunctions occur when Venus is at its greatest distance from Earth, on the opposite side of the Sun. Sun-Venus interior conjunctions occur when Venus is closest to Earth, between Earth and the Sun. The phase circle defines the Venus synodic cycle by the binary of rising and setting phases. Rising phases begin following an interior conjunction. As the orbit of Venus comes between Earth and the Sun, it disappears from the evening sky, and while hidden by daylight, it slows down while reversing direction. Following the solar conjunction, Venus again slows down and reverses direction, this time emerging as a morning star, rising before dawn, before the sun comes up. Setting phases begin following an exterior conjunction. As Venus surpasses the sun along its path on the ecliptic, it gradually gains enough distance from the sun's light to become visible in the evening sky after the sun is set. Intervals. The 2,920-day Venus synodic cycle can also be divided into 20 parts, averaging 146 days each. To define our 20 intervals, we start by dividing the cycle into 4 groups: red, white, blue, and black. Note that the interval circle places the exterior conjunction at the center of blue intervals and the interior conjunction at the center of red intervals. The red and blue intervals are each exactly 146 days long, measured 73 days on either side of their respective interior and exterior conjunctions. The red intervals begin within a day of Venus being furthest from the sun at its greatest western elongation, prior to slowing down toward the retrograde motion. The red intervals end within a day of Venus's greatest eastern elongation, following the direct station and its emergence as a morning star. White intervals. They last between 141 and 151 days. This is Venus in its morning star. It rises before the sun. in the morning, in the dawn hours. And it's a speed that is gradually accelerating, and it's gradually getting faster as it approaches the sun. Blue intervals. They last exactly 146 days. This is where Venus transforms from morning to evening star. So it disappears under the beams of the sun. And then when it reemerges, it's in the evening sky. You can see it setting after the sun is set. This is fast direct motion. And like I said, the exterior conjunction is at the center of the interval. Black intervals. They also last between 141 and 151 days. This is when Venus is an evening star. Like I said, it sets after the sun is set in the evening sky. In the evening sky, and it's gradually decelerating. It's gradually slowing down in speed because it's going to eventually reach its next retrograde with the next interval, which is the red interval. This is where Venus goes retrograde. So this is also 146 days. Now Venus is going actually from evening to morning star. It's got this slow retrograde motion, and the interior conjunction is at the center of the interval. Okay, and now I want to show. Where's my video? Okay, here we are. I'm going to show you a video that takes us through the 20 intervals, the 10 phases. It shows you basically the combination of the two, why I have the two. Whoops. Okay, so the white one interval begins with Venus in tropical Sagittarius, just past its greatest eastern elongation as it accelerates toward the sun in Capricorn. And this is a list of just random famous people born during the white one rising A. Okay, the blue 5 interval begins with Venus in tropical, whoops, that went too fast. The same idea. The setting D phase begins with a Sun-Venus exterior conjunction in tropical Leo. There again, it's just some names that might be familiar to people. The black 4 interval begins with Venus in tropical Scorpio, and as it becomes visible as an evening star, and it gradually slows in speed. The red 3 interval begins with the day of Venus in tropical Taurus. This is the Venus retrograde in Gemini, like we had in 2020. We have that retrograde every 8 years, like all the retrogrades. But in 2020, you might remember during COVID, we had a Venus retrograde. Okay, this is the white 2 interval. It begins with Venus rising as a morning star in tropical Cancer with the sun in Leo. We had this at the end of last year. At the end of 2021 was our last white 2 rising B.
That's King Charles.
Pair. Yeah, King Charles, the new one. That's right. Here we are. This is the blue 1 interval. So this is another exterior conjunction. A lot of pretty famous people here. The black E phase. There we go. Black 5, this is an evening interval. So you can see 2021, that was like the summer of 2021 last year was a black 5. And this is a lot of revolutions happen in black 5. The Russian Revolution, the Chinese Revolution, French Revolution. Here we are, the red 4. This is the next Venus retrograde. This is the Venus retrograde that we had in Aquarius at the beginning of this year. It's got a big relationship with Russian history. There's a lot of, I'll show you later how the red 4 has a very strong relationship with Russian history and revolution. This is the white 3. This is Venus rising as a morning star in tropical Aquarius. There are a lot of famous songwriters. You can see like Paul McCartney, Michael Jackson, Prince, Madonna, Machine Gun Kelly, Iggy Azalea, all kinds of famous musicians are in the white 3C. Here's the blue 2 interval. This is the one we have now. This is the exterior Venus conjunction in Libra that we've just had. And right now we're in the blue 2 black A phase. And here we are. A lot of dictators in the blue 2, everyone from Stalin to Ronald Reagan. Black 1. Here we are. This is another evening star. People like Kurt Cobain, Benicio del Toro, Lily Taylor. They were all born on the same day. George Harrison. A lot of
artists, right?
Yeah, a lot of artists and musicians. Yeah. This is another Venus retrograde. This is the one that we'll have next summer. In the summer of 2023, we'll have a Venus retrograde in Leo. And yeah, this is another one that's very sort of provocative. Okay, here we have a morning star, the white 4. This begins in Virgo, and it's Venus rising. And yeah, this is there's a lot of very strong women that are born during the white 4, very powerful women. Blue 3, Venus in tropical Pisces. This is the conjunction that happens in Gemini these days. It'll happen again in 2024, an exterior conjunction between the Sun, Venus, and Gemini. And here are a bunch more names of famous people. The black 2 interval. This is Venus becoming visible as an evening star in Virgo. And this one, there's more U.S. presidents born during the black 2 than any other. And people like Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks, they're all black 2 as well.
Oh, interesting.
Now we have another Venus. Yeah, we have another Venus retrograde. This is the red 1. The red 1 is interesting because it's Napoleon, Adolf Hitler, Catherine the Great. A lot of people who who want to expand territory. And in Russia now, the head of the Wagner group, he's a red 1. This is the white 5. This is Lula's. Lula is a white 5. So here you are. It's another one that has a tremendous sort of it's creative with intelligence, and a lot of there is a kind of romanticism to it as well. People like Jackie Onassis, people like that are white 5. A lot of
would you say like humanist, idealistic? Would you say?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah. This is the blue 4. This tends to be very international. Zelensky is a blue 4. Macron was a blue 4. Franklin Roosevelt was a blue 4. This is the black 3. 3 of the last 4, well, besides Biden, 3 of the last 4 presidents were black C. Donald Trump, George W. Bush, and Bill Clinton are all black 3. And yeah, it tends to be sort of a harder interval. And now we're in the last Venus retrograde, the red 2. This is also a very sort of controversial one. I know Brazil had a revolution in 1930 during a red 2.
Yes.
Can be very explosive. Yeah. And there we are. That is the tour of the 20 intervals and 10 phases. And now that I've just given you an idea of what they look like, I want to talk about some specific people.
Should we leave the screen on, or we can stop?
We can stop for a minute if you like.
Okay.
Here we are. If you want to do a translation for people, and then I can play more slides after and just give you a chance, because that's a lot to translate there.
Eu sei. I was trying to... Oi, pessoal. Então, ele pediu para traduzir. Vocês estão acompanhando mais ou menos? Eu tentei aqui. São as várias fases, não é? Então, as fases das cores, são 4 cores, mas tem também os intervalos que ele mostra. E ele colocou uma lista de celebridades e também, né, por exemplo, a Rússia responde bastante para a fase 4 vermelha. né, que aconteceu a última vez em Aquário 2022, e depois ele tem muitos ditadores nascem durante a fase azul 2, não é? Que é a que tivemos agora em Libra, ele falou, tá? E na fase branca 4 nascem bastante, que eu acho que é a estrela da manhã. Tem um nome, né? Vocês lembram? Se é... ai, meu Deus, eu esqueci a estrela... esqueci o nome da estrela, mas que se dá, né? Quando é a estrela da tarde, estrela da manhã, o pessoal do tradicional sabe bem. E é quando nascem mulheres fortes e poderosas. Né? E depois ele vai fazendo mais comentários, né? Por exemplo, Vermelho 1, Napoleão, para quem quer expandir, os que gostam de expandir territórios imperialistas, né? Diz que Lula nasceu na fase branco 5, que é inteligência, prática e romântico, né? Eu perguntei se os idealistas e humanistas nascem aí, ele falou que sim. Já a fase azul 4C, do Macron e o Zelensky. É interessante ficar vendo, né? A Revolução de 30 aconteceu numa fase, eu não sei se é essa 3, né? 3 cor negra, fase C. É um pouco de técnica, né? Mas ele vai continuar explicando agora. Ok, thank you.
All right. Okay, I hope that was understandable for everyone. Okay. Okay. Now, these are the faces of everyone who's been a leader of Russia since before Catherine the Great. Even you can see it's kind of even between the rising and the setting. But then when we go to the intervals, you can see actually for most of Russian history, there have been it has been run by the red interval, people born during the red interval, including Catherine the Great, who was red 1. Tsar Nicholas I and Tsar Nicholas II are both red 3. During the revolution, you had Kerensky was a red 1, Lenin was a red 4, Trotsky was a red 4. Stalin is the only sort of outlier, a blue 2. And then you can see after him, Malenkov, Khrushchev are both red 4, Brezhnev red 2. And after that, you know, it's a bit more mixed, but not that much. You can see that Putin as a black 2 is a very new, there's never been a black 2 interval leader of Russia in the last, at least the last hundreds of years, as long as there really has been a Russia. I need to go back a little further to Peter the Great and Ivan the Terrible. They're not on this graph, but neither of them are black 2s. So you can see, I mean, it's interesting to me, this the sort of how much it's balanced for red 2s. Now, I wanted to tell you a little bit about Putin's life. He's a black B, like I said, a black 2 in his birth chart with Venus and Scorpio. Now, his mother was born during the red 5 interval. And then he joined the KGB during the red 5 interval in 1975. His mother was born in 1911 during the red 5. He joined the KGB in 1975 during the red 5. In 1983, he got married during the red 5. 8 years later, in 1991, there was a coup in Moscow, and well, in Russia, all of the Soviet Union, against Gorbachev. And this was the day that Putin resigned from the KGB. So remember, in 1975, he joined during the red 5. Now he's quit the KGB during the red 5. And then 8 years later, his father died during the red 5. And just a couple of days after his father died, he got back from his father's funeral, and the president, Boris Yeltsin, wanted to see him because he wanted to appoint Putin the new prime minister, the 5th prime minister in like a year and a half in Russia. And this was the first day we ever heard Putin's name in the news. This is the day he became famous. And from prime minister, he went on to become president. And he's really been in charge ever since. I mean, from this handshake onward, it was a process, but it was basically, you know, this was the turning point for him. 8 years after this, in 2007, was when he personally went to Guatemala to ask for Sochi to host the 2014 Olympic Games. This was during a red 5. Now, during a red 4, remember just this past winter when the invasion of Ukraine happened, we were in a red 4 Venus retrograde. But
Yes.
8 years earlier, the Crimea was also taken during the Venus retrograde, the red 4.
The 80-year cycle.
Yeah, exactly. And then 8 years, the next red 5 was when Putin and Barack Obama met at the United Nations. This was, I don't know if you remember, this was a very tense meeting. They were both at the United Nations. You can see Obama does not look happy. This was in the middle of the whole Syria thing. Putin kind of embarrassed Obama at the UN, so it was a strong for him. So basically, you can see. I mean, I've shown you.
2015, right?
Yeah, 2015. So next summer is the next red 5, the summer of 2023. So I've shown you his mother was born, his father died during the red 5. He joined the KGB, he left the KGB during the red 5. He got married during the red 5. The red 5 is always, it's almost like the new chapter in his life, always turns at the red 5. So I expect next summer, whatever's going on, you know, provided he's still alive, of course, that the red 5 next summer would be like a really, really important moment for the next step of his presidency.
Yeah. It's a turning point for him, right?
Yeah, it's a turning point. Exactly. Do you want to quickly explain that in Portuguese before I go to the next one?
Ok. Pessoal, ele mostrou aqui naquele vídeo a importância da fase vermelha 5, são os intervalo vermelho fase 5, nas várias fases, nas datas importantes da biografia de Putin, né? Sobre a morte do pai dele, quando ele estava na KGB, quando teve a invasão da Crimeia, ou então quando ele encontrou Barack Obama nos Estados Unidos, e vai se repetir de novo o ano que vem, que é o verão do hemisfério norte, né? Julho, agosto, por aí, e para a gente vai ser o inverno. Então ele está esperando esse ciclo de 8-8, que é alguma coisa importante, como né? Um ponto importante é como aquelas que a gente chama, né? As curvas de Saturno, os ciclos da Lua progredida. Então é para esperar e ver, porque esse estudo foi feito, né? Anteriormente. Vocês estão entendendo mais ou menos? I would like to also to hear, I don't know if our guests, American guests, I know they have different time zones. I said, in California and Vancouver is one time, and Miami, New York is another time. In London, they are sleeping already, so maybe they watch tomorrow. Portugal, the same thing, it's after midnight. So we try to work around here. But anyways, Brazilians and whoever also speaks Spanish or English can watch again tomorrow, and we are trying to be bilingual and do our best. That's why his name is Nick Dagan Bets, because we do our best together. Thank you.
Together. Okay, so that was the first example I wanted to show. I wanted to show another example. It's not so contemporary, but it gives you the same idea in the lives of politicians.
Okay.
This is Indira Gandhi. So Indira Gandhi was born during the Black 5 interval. You remember Putin was born during the Black 2. It's quite a lot of like really serious politicians seem to be born in the Black intervals. But with her life, there's a red 4 of just everywhere in her history. She got married during a red 4. India became a republic. Her father was the prime minister during a red 4. And then there was a political battle between her husband and her father during the next red 4 in 1958. Remember, the previous red 4 was 1950 when India became a country. And she married him in 1942. So now it's 16 years later after they got married and 8 years after India became a country. And her father and her husband are in a political scandal. And her husband is sort of not disgraced, but is sort of forced. That he's calling out his father-in-law's corruption, and it causes this big scandal, and he has to sort of leave the government. 8 years after that, in 1966, her father died during the Red 3 interval in 1964, and then another prime minister replaced her father, and then he died. There was a war between India and Pakistan, and just as they were ending the war to sign the peace protocol, the prime minister of India died, and Indira was suddenly elected prime minister, almost as a replacement of her father, also during a Red 4.
So just 1 second, Nick. So people
Yes.
confuse the family name Gandhi with Mahatma Gandhi.
Yeah.
Right?
They're not related, but funny enough, they're both Black 5 interval.
Really?
They're both born during they're both born during the same interval, but they're not related.
Okay.
Her name is Gandhi because she married someone, this guy, Feroz Gandhi.
Ok, vou traduzir. I'm going to translate. Pessoal, eu perguntei para o
Okay.
Nick que ela tem o sobrenome do Mahatma Gandhi, mas eles não são parentes, né? É o sobrenome do marido dela que ela conseguiu. Mas, coincidentemente, os dois nasceram nessa fase, na fase do intervalo negro número X, que ele falou. Então, tem uma relação interessante, né? Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so I'm showing you these Red 4s right up until when she becomes Prime Minister of India. And then 8 years later, during the next Red 4, her son Sanjay meets this woman, Manika Anand. And this is going to be important because her son Sanjay is a very, is her like, sort of like political lieutenant. He's like the second in command. And he dies in a plane crash, actually during a Red 3 interval in 1980, just like her father died in 1964 during a Red 3 interval.
Oh, wow.
And Manika Anand was born during a Red 3 interval. So she meets Sanjay, and this is going to be important because later she's going to become a political figure. So this is during a Red 4. 8 years later, so her son is dead, and Manika has a child, Indira's grandson, and it's a Red 4, but the two women have a fight, and Indira kicks Manika and her grandson out of her house, and Manika is going to come back as a politician. She's still a politician in India now. So yeah, just all these different Red 4, and then Indira Gandhi was assassinated during a Black 2 interval, 2.5 years after this. But I'm just showing you again how these intervals keep coming up. If you follow a lot of people's lives, just like with Putin, they might be good things or bad things, but you can just see how the major changes are always coming around at these same intervals, that you can watch people's lives. And I've found that with clients, it's the same kind of thing when I do consultations. There are 5 places where the Venus retrogrades happen: Aries, Scorpio, Gemini, Capricorn, and Leo. And if I see someone with one of those 5 signs rising, and I know that Venus is always every 8 years crossing that ascendant, it tells me, okay, we want to know about that period in the person's life, because it's going to tell us something about where life has put them now. It'll have something to do with their own turning points. So when you're reading people's charts, it's a very handy piece of information to have, because it tells you something not just about their birth chart in the abstract that you must interpret, but it connects their chart to the passing of time, to the transit.
Okay, so what are the 5 signs you said? Capricorn, I remember.
Capricorn was the last one. It's Aries, Scorpio, Gemini, Capricorn, Leo. And that's Aries is red 1, the red 1. Scorpio's the red 2. Gemini's the red 3. Capricorn's the red 4. Leo is the red 5. So it makes that star pattern. This is the oldest symbol in the world. The 5-pointed star is a Venusian design, and all the ancient cultures knew this when they followed Venus. The Babylonians knew this. The Maya knew this. Think about it. The five-pointed star, it's on the Chinese flag, it's on the American flag, it was on the Soviet flag, it's on many flags. It's the most universal symbol for humanity, and it's the Venus symbol.
And you know what I noticed, that this pattern also happens with the 5-petal flowers. Instead of being
Yes.
a star, you have the petals, but it's the same symmetry. And flower has to do with Venus also, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'll do some translation for them about this. Okay.
Yeah.
Pessoal, oi. Tô falando aqui então que essas conjunções, né, importantes, o nosso colega José Maria Gomes Neto fala muito sobre isso, acontece nos signos de Capricórnio, Áries, Escorpião, Gêmeos e Leão. E as pessoas que têm com ascendente em Capricórnio, Áries, Escorpião, Gêmeos e Leão, é importante seguir esse ciclo, porque a cada 8 anos a Vênus faz uma conjunção lá com o ascendente. Então é interessante pesquisar toda vez que isso acontece nesses signos dos anos passados, para ver qual é o seu padrão da estrela de 5 pontas. E eu falei para ele que acontece no céu com as estrelas e acontece na Terra com flores. Vocês já pegaram umas flores de 5 pétalas, né? Esse padrão acontece também, e flor tem a ver com Vênus também. Foi isso que eu falei para ele. Thank you.
Okay. Do people ask questions? Do you have like a question?
Yeah, so it's question time. If anyone, I will put here on the banner. So let me see here. Tá. Pessoal, ele está dizendo que as perguntas estão liberadas. Algum comentário, alguma pergunta para ele, alguma coisa que não ficou bem entendida. Aproveite esse momento agora que a gente faz esse intervalo para vocês fazerem, né? A gente vai ver enquanto tiver interesse e ele tiver à disposição, a gente continua, né? Até completar mais ou menos, tem 42 minutos agora. Alguma pergunta? Está chegando comentário. Então, tá bom. Vou deixar uns minutinhos para vocês se prepararem aí com as perguntas. Just one second, Nick. Okay, no questions, then we might go on. Vamos continuar então sem as perguntas.
Okay, sure. Okay. I can show something else now. Whoops. Okay, sharing my screen. Wait, what's going on here? Okay, there we are. Yeah, this is a list of what I like to look at are lists of different political leaders from different countries. These are the 45 men who have served as U.S. president. And you can see it's not evenly distributed. With Joe Biden, there is the 5th blue 2 interval out of 45. And there have been 5 black 2s, and there have been white 5s. And it's a very interesting sort of division, because there are certain kind of types for presidents. For instance, all the white 5s except for Barack Obama, that would be Benjamin Harrison, William Howard Taft, Warren Harding, and Gerald Ford. All the other presidents were very unsuccessful, who served 1 term or less. And you know, if they either lost by trying to get reelected, or they died while being in office. Harding died in office, Harrison and Taft were outvoted, and Ford was just a replacement who was outvoted. And then Obama was very successful, but he's the only white 5. But there have been a lot of them. And then. Sorry, I'm just going to look for this other one.
And John Kennedy was a John Kennedy. Oh, okay.
This is no. Okay, I don't have I'm supposed to have a death one. My apologies. I didn't have everything. Oh, this is the other one I wanted to look at. There we are. The British, they just had an election. Now you can see here, like this is their sun sign. It's pretty even. Okay, they've only had one Scorpio, but it's mostly even. And then the Venus signs, a lot of like 7 of them with Venus in Sagittarius, 6 with Venus in Leo, 6 with Venus in Pisces. Quite sort of broken up. But when you look at the phases, it's really, really distinct. 8 setting A phases compared to any of the others, including the most recent one, Liz Truss, and now the new one, Rishi Sunak. They're both, where is it? There. This is how many red prime ministers Britain has had. You can see at the bottom right, Boris Johnson is a red 3. Liz Truss, the woman who was there for 45 days, is a red 5. And now the new guy, I haven't put him in yet, he's also a red 3. Rishi Sunak is a red 3. So that means there are 6 red 3s now. There have been 6 black 1s and 5 red 2s. But you can see like there's a very heavy concentration in British government over the last 200 years. A lot. It's like what I showed with the Soviets. Many more born during the red intervals than other intervals.
I'll translate that a little bit. Pessoal, vocês podem ver, ele está mostrando aí a eleição dos primeiros ministros da Inglaterra e, bom, ficou registrado que tem muito mais, nos últimos 200 anos ele mostrou uma lista, e esses, o Boris Johnson, essa que entrou e ficou só 45 dias, e o novo que está eleito são da fase 3. A fase vermelha, vamos dizer, fase vermelha, mas pode ser, tem um número na fase vermelha 1, 2 ou 3. De qualquer forma, é o que mais aparece nos primeiros ministros, é a fase vermelha, diferentemente dos outros, das outras cores, e também com números diferentes. Thank you.
Okay. And the next one that I thought I'd show you, maybe just one more.
All right. So I would have a question. If
yeah, go ahead.
How do you blend this information with other, techniques like transits of progression, or that's just enough for you to?
Well, no, it all comes together. There is. Like for instance, the Mars cycle, the Mars and Venus cycle, they each have their own lengths, but the Mars cycle is a cycle that it's very asymmetrical as opposed to Venus is symmetrical. And Mars is alternates of 15 and 17. So the first Mars return is 15, but then the next one is 17 years later at 32. And then the next one is 15 years later at 47. And the next one is 17 years later at 64, and then 15 years later at 79. But what's really interesting is at 32 and at 64, the Mars cycle joins with the Venus cycle. If you look at any solar return, your solar return or any solar return for the age of 32 or the age of 64, you'll see Venus and Mars are both very, very close to where the sun is.
Vou translate that.
Okay.
Eu perguntei para ele sobre como ele mistura essa técnica com as outras, né, de previsão, como trânsitos e progressões. Ele disse que ele trabalha usando, né, as técnicas juntas necessárias, mas ele gosta de conjugar com a técnica do ciclo de Marte, que é irregular, ao contrário de Vênus, né? Então, parece que a cada 14 ou 15 anos acontece. De qualquer forma, aos 32 anos, as pessoas têm o retorno de Marte e de Vênus dentro do seu próprio ciclo, né, juntamente, e com 64 anos de idade também. Então a gente pode observar. Thank you.
Okay. All right. I'm trying to decide which one to show next. Yeah, here.
I'll have a comment here for you. Bate-papo estelar, someone say. Excellent live. Nick has done a lot of research. Thank you for bringing such a guest. Oh, okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
O prazer é nosso.
Okay. Well, I was trying to decide who else to show.
Okay. If you excuse me, us, the same person is asking if you'll be so kind to tell what will be like to be born under the red 2 cycle. Maybe it's hers.
Oh yeah, the red 2 cycle. That is close to the Venus retrograde in Scorpio. People with a lot of Scorpio planets, that transit can be powerful. There are no sort of what I watch out for when other things are happening to Scorpio, or when there's a Venus return close to that. My experience with this particular chart, the red 2 interval people tend to be very provocative. They tend to be people who want to instigate change, and they don't mind. They'll go a little further than most people, to sort of not get what they want, but to advance their agenda.
Assertive, you say?
Assertive and very provocative.
Provocative.
Willing to fight in order to survive.
Yeah. Do you remember in that list of yours I think was Secretary of State for Bush, Rice, Condoleezza Rice?
Yeah, she's a red 2. Yes.
Oh,
mind. And so was Bush's wife, Laura Bush, was also a red 2. Condoleezza Rice was a red 2. That was a very here I can even show you quickly.
Yeah, because when she spoke, Condoleezza Rice, we felt like like a sting of a bee of some sorts, That venom. Don't mess with me.
Well, his George W. Bush, I mean, he was a black 3 interval, like Bill Clinton and like Donald Trump, but everyone around him was born during a red interval. And I'm downloading the slide right now. I'll show you quickly. We can make this the last one because it's coming up just about. Okay. Okay, here we are. So, including in George Bush's circle, we had Colin Powell was a red 1. Okay, he's a blue 4. There's a couple of blues there. Bush himself was a black 3. Oh yeah, there's Laura Bush as a red 2. Condoleezza Rice is a red 2. I know there's some more here. Oh yeah, his father was a red 3. That's right. Donald Rumsfeld was a red 3, and Dick Cheney's a white 2.
He's terrible.
Yeah. And then another one of these judges that he appointed is a red 4. Yeah, and his Secretary of Defense was a red 5. So you can see just out of like a small selection of the people. I mean, there is a mix. There is a mix, but these were that was his cabinet, and it had a lot of Colin Powell. Colin Powell, Rumsfeld, Rice, all these people.
I think Colin Powell was the one who regretted he didn't, he wasn't in the cabinet of the re-election. I think he suffered from that conscience that he got, because I think he was very also idealistic. When he was saying, when he say a bright mind is something that it's too much to lose, or something he had
Yeah.
saying. We should not waste a bright mind
It's
for
a terrible
children.
thing to waste. Yeah, a bright mind is a terrible thing to waste. Yeah.
And
Yeah, I think he was tricked,
I think so too.
Yeah.
And you see, he was the first one to die, I guess, from this cabinet.
Yeah.
The first one to die,
Yeah. Rumsfeld is dead also, but I think Powell died first. Yeah.
I think Colin died first. Okay. Well, that's a great study, the cabinet.
Yeah. Yeah. I've studied a lot of different cabinets. I also study revolutions and famous trials, and I come up with a lot of interesting comparisons. Things like this where there's a lot more red intervals or a lot more black intervals, and
you don't have to show
I'm
us,
learning.
but can you tell us about those trials? The one who's
some of the trials I've looked at. I've looked at. There was a trial in South Africa, the one that sent Nelson Mandela to prison. Here, I can show that to you quickly.
Oh, Nelson Mandela.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so. Yeah.
Oops.
Pessoal, de onde você está nos assistindo? Se vocês podem falar de novo, que cidade, que estado, ajuda aqui a gente, fazer comentários. Obrigado.
Okay. These are different South Africans. I know I had another one there for just the people on the trial. Those are the leaders. I know, I was just looking at it. What the hell? Okay. I hope I didn't delete it by accident.
We have another question.
I don't know if I did delete it or something. I don't know what I've done with it.
We have another question. How would these studies define a very long battle between Russia and USA? Is there anyone similarities or difference?
Well, I mean, the thing about Russia is they make the same mistakes. If you know Russian history, they're making the same mistakes now that they were making 200 years ago. So I'm looking for the slide I had with the trial, and I'm totally disappointed. I'm sorry I can't find it in time. Anyway, it's another one of these interesting examples. I'll focus on the question. Russia is making a lot of the same mistakes that they make historically. And what I can say, like I already showed you, the red 5 interval tends to be a big deal in Putin's life. And that's when I expect things to change for him. And then the red 1 interval, which we have in the spring of 2025, is always, it's the most common one for assassinations. 3 American presidents were assassinated during the red 1. And many Russian leaders were assassinated during the red 1 interval.
Okay, I had to translate that. Gente, nesse estudo que ele faz com líderes e políticos, né, ele disse que vários assassinatos, né, morte durante o mandato acontece na fase 1 vermelha, tanto nos Estados Unidos quanto na Rússia. What would that be? Red 1 would say, which,
that's the Aries one. Yeah, the red 1, the red 1 interval. If you think about it like that, that was when the Second World War ended. So Mussolini, Roosevelt, Hitler, they all died during the red 1. But then 8 years later, the next red 1 in 1953, Stalin died. But it's also the red 1 is one where many U.S. presidents have been assassinated. Well, several, either during a red 1 or they were murdered by someone born during a red 1. And many Russian leaders have been assassinated during a red 1 interval. It seems to be a popular one for assassinations. That's the red 1.
When is the next one, Nick, then?
The spring of 2025, like between March and June of 2025.
A próxima vai ser entre março e junho de 2025. Pessoal, só para a gente ficar de olho. Some people are asking me the contact to Nick, so I was going to do this at the end, but I will do this now, and we can actually we are coming to a close. If people don't have any more questions, Nick, feel free to wrap it up the way he would like.
Yeah.
But he's available for consultation at this Nick Dagan Best astrologer.com/consultations. Okay. Let me see here. We have all right. Okay. So
all right, fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, I think people are pleased to hear you, as I would know. Someone is asking if you are on, if you post on Instagram.
I am on Instagram. Yeah, I am on Instagram. I don't do much there. I should do more. I'm about to do more videos like that video I showed at the beginning. I'm going to be releasing those on YouTube and TikTok. And if I can figure out how to get it on Instagram as well, I'll put it on there as well.
Ok, ele está mais no TikTok, tá? TikTok ele me mostrou o vídeo que ele está preparando. Eu não estou no TikTok, então não acompanho, a não ser que me mandem um link. E também ele está no YouTube. Do you have a YouTube channel as well? Say?
Yeah, just look up my name on YouTube and you'll find my channel, Nick Dagan Best.
Então, pessoal, é só você colocar o nome dele todo na internet, você vai achar o Instagram, o YouTube, o TikTok, o Facebook, o website dele, tá bom? Ok, se vocês quiserem se despedir do Nick agora, eu agradeço, vou passar a palavra para ele para a gente se despedir. Completamos 1 hora e 2 minutos de programa, acho que foi super legal, eu aprendi muito com ele, fiz o meu mapa com ele também, tá? So, we can, your last words then, Nick.
Obrigado, Brazil, and congratulations for your fantastic election. I wish you a very happy success.
Ok, então vocês ouviram, ele está contente com as nossas eleições que nós tivemos, agradece a presença de vocês, eu estou muito contente que vocês vieram. I'm very happy, Nick, he agreed to, he's a busy guy, he's, between 2 countries, so he's really generous. That's why I just invite generous people, humanistic, idealistic people, because they never say no. Well, almost never. Because they are really, that's what we need in the world today. We need people that can listen to us, can share with us. And I believe that too. Okay, so thank you very much.
My pleasure. That's why I'm growing the beard, so I look like Tolstoy. And shame the Russians.
Yeah, you see? I haven't seen Nick for a long time when we met at conferences in the US, so he never had this gray hair and gray beard, and neither did I. So we
were young men then.
Yeah. And he did great presentations with all this research that he has and all this data bank com esses bancos de dados maravilhosos. Ele coleciona, ele grava de cabeça, né? Então, assim, apresenta com esse charme leonino que ele tem. E a gente era todo assim jovem, com cabelo, né? Cabelo e barba preta aqui. All right, thank you very much. And we are, running a vinheta para dizer um adeus. Por favor, se vocês gostaram, I'll tell them if they like it to say like it at YouTube. They helps us when they say they press they leave comments.
It's not there. It's not there yet. I'm still editing it more, but it'll be there very soon. I hope tonight or tomorrow morning. But these things take time.
Tá bom, gente. Então, olha, aquela velha história. Se vocês gostaram, né, indiquem para quem gosta de astrologia, entenda ou não muito bem o inglês, a gente tentou traduzir um pouquinho aqui, tá? Isso é importante, se inscrever no canal, deixar um joinha, deixar um comentário, tudo isso faz o canal crescer, tá bom? Então eu vou colocar a vinheta para a gente se despedir. Aí.